Hi, everyone. My name is Brendan, and welcome to Business Modeling Mondays, a new video series brought to you by Quantrix. Each episode, we're going to be covering topics that are relevant to modelers and planners. Joining me today is Lindsay, and we'll be discussing how to build a scenario manager. For those of you who are new to Quantrix, we are a financial modeling software company. We've worked with just about every industry and use case. And if you want to learn more about us, you can visit us at quantrix.com. So, Lindsay, this is an interesting topic. When people think about scenarios, their minds might initially go to best case and worst case. But you've seen in a lot of your demos and trainings, right, that that's really not the case. It's a little bit more complex than that.
Yeah, that's right, Brendan. I would say, as we have seen over the past several years, scenarios are not getting any simpler to model. And in fact, what I'm often seeing with customers and also with our prospects is the level of detail at which we need to model variations of different scenarios is really increasing. And so I think today's conversation about scenario managers is super timely, and I'm excited to dive in.
Lindsay, obviously, I think the first question that we need to address is what is a scenario manager? So maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, certainly there's lots of different definitions out there. In fact, lots of tools have built in scenario manager applications. Excel is one of those applications, but I would say generally it's more of a common concept among modelers as something that you use to organize all of your scenarios, your inputs, your outputs, the different assumptions that you have, the different variables that are associated with your scenarios, and then, of course, the formulas to organize all of those. So it's really just an approach to managing and organizing all of the complexity that you're trying to model in a complex set of scenarios.
When would you use one of these in modeling?
If you've got a simple model, probably just having good organization is fine for working with your scenarios. But again, we're talking about complex scenarios and lots of them. So anytime your model requires multiple variables that are included in these scenarios, and I'd also say if you have inputs to these scenarios coming from lots of users, we talk about collaboration all the time with modeling. And when scenarios are involved, that usually means more people are involved from your organization in those decisions as well. I'd say too, anytime you need to compare those different variables and scenarios, anytime sensitivity analysis is important, these are all going to be places where you're going to want a method to organize your scenarios, and a scenario manager is the way that you should do it.
I think it's kind of important that we look at why you would be using one in the first place. So we have listed here a few on the screen, but maybe you can talk a little bit about what you've seen in your experience.
Yeah, there's a lot of benefits to having a scenario manager incorporated into your more complicated models. We've already touched on, from an organization standpoint, why these can be really helpful. But also, it's really about how you extend models and incorporate as much context and understanding for other people that need to interact with your model as well. So, any way that we can build a pattern, call out important variables, and reduce work or duplication across a model, that becomes even more important when we're building out scenarios and our model is getting large. We need to maximize clarity as much as possible, and that scenario manager is going to help us get started on the right direction with that.
Spreadsheets are pretty commonplace in organizations, and a lot of people are using them. So a lot of people, I'm assuming, have been using spreadsheets to create their scenario managers.
Yeah, you're right. Spreadsheets are, I would say, the most common place where people are modeling scenarios. And Excel actually has a built-in scenario manager tool, which you can see on the screen here. Anybody who spent a lot of time building sophisticated models, you're probably not using this. It has a limit of a maximum of 32 input cells. So if you have more than 32 variables that you're trying to model, this tool isn't going to cut it, which means you're going to have to employ different methods to make this work in a spreadsheet. The most common examples that I will often see are things such as offset and choose in spreadsheets. Again, this can work pretty well. This is very effective if your model is pretty simple, but when we start to build out enterprise level models with complex global scenarios, to employ this method successfully, you're going to need to have great organization and be thinking well ahead when you start building out this model to make sure that this stands the test of time and the test of all the scenarios that you hope to add and maybe others want to contribute.
And now we're going to be moving into the section where we're going to be building a scenario manager in Quantrix. So what does that entail, and what types of things are they going to be seeing?
Yeah, so we're going to do a rapid fire demo of just this section of building scenarios into Quantrix. And you're going to see how easily we can add literally unlimited scenarios, as many input variables as we need to reflect the real reality of our business. And we're going to do all this with one formula to manage our forecasted scenarios, no offsets or choose if you're familiar with spreadsheets. And all this is going to be completely pivotable on demand at any point in time. So we're in Quantrix Modeler, and I've already got a model started for us here. You can see I've got a forecast on the left side of our screen. We are forecasting out by quarter, and we've got all of our regions and products loaded in here to this model. And we're calculating our sales, cost of goods, and profit quarter over quarter. Now, I've pulled all of this data, at least for Q1 so far, in from a separate matrix, which is called actuals. And this is connected to a database. So we'll just be able to refresh this as time progresses and see those values coming in. For the purpose of our demo here, we're actually going to focus on formula number 3 at the bottom of the screen here, which is, at least for now, just projecting out all of our metrics quarter over quarter. And we're taking the previous quarter's value and we are multiplying that forward using our growth rate, which you can see over here right now. It's just a singular growth rate of 118%. So let's go ahead and expand this scenario out just a bit. And let's say that to begin with, we want to have regional growth rates, not just a singular growth rate to spread across our business, but actually a different growth rate for every region. So I've just brought over my region category, and you can see that Quantrix brought all of our region names automatically over. They're now connected directly to our forecast, so we're not going to lose any new regions that get added from our actuals over time. I'll actually go ahead and just move product up to the top here in the filter tray to focus on a singular product here as well. So let's expand this further. Not only maybe do we have different growth rates per region, but remember, we're also forecasting here our revenue and our expenses. So let's pull metric over here into growth rates too. And I'm actually just going to filter so we can focus on sales and cost of goods. Now, I've got a formula down here at the bottom just for the purpose of our demo to show that we're spinning up some growth rates. In a real world scenario, these are probably coming from historical averages or maybe another data source, or maybe these are being inputted by our various regional managers. But you can see now that we've got different growth rates per region, per sales, and per cost of goods. So let's expand this out further yet again here. We've got just one scenario so far. So let's add a couple more, and we can do that in Quantrix just by clicking on our existing scenario and pressing enter on the keyboard a couple times. I'm going to go ahead and, just to keep things simple to start with, call our first new scenario here low and my next one high. And again, just to move things along quickly here, I'm actually going to type out just a quick formula to populate these different growth rate values. So we'll do the same thing for high, maybe expected times 1.1. So now this brings us to the ultimate question, and oftentimes the ultimate challenge we face in spreadsheets, which is, how do we compare side by side the different outputs of our different scenarios? Maybe, for example, if I pull region up to the top in my filter tray here, let's say for Canada, we want to know what's going to be the different projection of our appliances business in Canada across these different scenarios. So in Quantrix, we don't have to do any copying and pasting. We don't have to drag any formulas around. If we want to see this side-by-side comparison, all we have to do is drag our scenario category from growth rates and just drop it over here into our forecast matrix. And so now you can see across every quarter, we've got that projection side by side of our different scenarios. And don't forget, of course, we've got this for every single region and each product line that we're selling in those various regions as well.
For people who are new to Quantrix, they probably have noticed that the formulas are separated from the cells. So can
Right.
you talk a little bit about how the formulas work?
Yeah, so formulas in Quantrix are kept completely outside of the cells. They're kept always beneath the cells, which you probably noticed. And so this has a few benefits. One, you can always see all the formulas that are being applied in the matrix that you're working in. And then also, you might have noticed they read a lot like sentences. So we call this real language formulas in Quantrix. And if you're coming from spreadsheets, you will be delighted to know that the functions that you use in Quantrix are identical to what you're using in spreadsheets today. The biggest difference you'll notice is we're using the names of the things already in our model to reference in our formulas: sales, cost of goods, profit, quarter. There aren't cell references. It's simply the names of the things you're already familiar with and you're building with in your model. Now, looking back at the model, so we've got our three pre-built scenarios already in here. And of course, we filtered once again by region and by product. But ultimately, our goal here is to give as much flexibility and choice for picking scenarios in our model as possible. So let's add a Quantrix scenario manager matrix. So I'm going to click our button up here to add a new matrix to our model and just bring it down at the bottom here. And I'm going to call this new matrix my scenario manager. So again, our goal here is to give choice and optionality with as many scenarios as we want. So I'm going to bring our metric category down here. And ultimately, like I said, what we want to do is, especially for end users, we want to make it as easy as possible to pick and choose which scenarios they want to combine to see in the model. So I'm going to call this bottom category my combo. So as an example, what if we had, man, like a really poor season, low sales and high cost of goods? What would the impact to our profit be if we did something like this? So let's pull this scenario manager piece into our forecast. And to do that, we're just going to do more of what we've already done here. I'm going to bring combo up and just replace our original scenario category with this. I'll press OK. And then we're actually going to just make one little tweak here to our formula number 3 here, our forecasting formula. And I'm going to come in and tell Quantrix that when I'm doing this forecasting, I want to multiply my previous quarter times my growth rate using this brand new scenario manager matrix as the scenarios that I want to pick from and choose for my calculations here. So I'll press enter. So if you keep your eye on the top left side of the screen here, as I make my different choices for combo 1, you can see these different outputs happening. In fact, maybe I'll just pivot down here and bring combo 1 here. And I can click on combo 1 anywhere in my model, just press enter on the keyboard and spin up a brand new combination that I want to see as well. So now we've incorporated choice. We can generate as many new combinations of scenarios as we like. I'm going to go ahead and clear the screen here for just a moment. And let's pull this just as kind of our final piece here. Let's pull all this together on a dashboard. Anybody who's built complicated models knows that we want to make this, again, as easy as possible for other people to interact with. So let's clean this up a little bit. I've made a canvas here. I've already kind of pre-formatted it with my colors. I'm going to just drag and drop my scenario manager right here onto my canvas. And I'm going to do the same thing with my forecast. And so once again, you can see here, just by pressing enter on the keyboard, I can on the fly create a brand new combination of scenario options here, maybe high sales and low cost of goods. We have a really great option for combo 3 here, and you can see that those projections have been added on the fly. Just as a quick bonus here, if we wanted at any point to add yet another option, as Brendan, you said at the very beginning, nobody's just calculating or forecasting best case, worst case. So we at any point in time could come back to our growth rates matrix here, press enter on the keyboard, add a brand new scenario or as many new scenarios as we'd like here. Again, I'm going to just throw in some values here so that we can see that. But let me just show you. Our brand new scenario has automatically been added to our list here for our users to be able to use and see those different projections on the fly.
A lot of people might be wondering, if something happens in my business in the summer or in the winter, how does that affect things? So is that something that Quantrix can handle?
Yeah, absolutely. Here's a really basic way that we can incorporate seasonality into our scenario manager. So here's our forecast on the left. Our scenario manager, of course, is on the right. If we wanted to pick and choose manually which scenarios to apply at different points throughout the year, we just do more of what we've already done. We could easily take our quarter category from forecast, simply drag and drop it here into our scenario manager. And maybe I'll just pivot, bring metric down here. And now you can see a user could come in and manually choose any combination of scenarios that they want to apply at different points throughout the year. So right now, this is all manually put in by different users. Again, this would be very easy to adjust or modify to use historical rolling averages, or pulling these values from maybe a previous year or a different data source. We could do this, of course. Right now, we're just leaving it purely to user choice, but that flexibility is available just with a simple drag and drop of our quarter category.
And Quantrix has worked with pretty much every industry and use case. And Lindsay, you've provided a lot of demos. I've met a lot of the customers, and so there's a really wide range of different types of customers that we've worked with, and they've all seemingly, to some degree, been using different types of scenarios, right?
Yeah, it's so true. And I agree. I've been really lucky to meet so many of our customers, and the diversity that we have among customers and the use cases is really exciting, and honestly, it's impressive. And you're so right. The common thread that I've seen across nearly every use case and customer is the need to model scenarios. And sometimes that is market projections or different pricing environments, or even sometimes it's different versions of a quote or a sales proposal that a customer wants to give to their customer. So having the ability to model these different types of scenarios is a benefit that our customers are seeing daily from the product, which is really exciting.
That's great. And, I want to thank everybody for watching. I hope you found this informative. If you want to try out Quantrix for yourself, we offer a free 30-day trial. It's fully featured, so you'll have access to try everything. And if you want to get in touch, we can schedule a demo to show you how Quantrix can fit into your business. I want to thank you again, and stay tuned for the next episode.